Hi girls, this particular revision video is about the bones, and we're talking just a general overview to start with. So it's important to note that we've got 5 different types of bones. We've got irregular bones, such as something like the vertebra, so within the spinal column. These little bones here make up the spinal column. And they are irregular bones, and you can see why. You can't really describe that shape very well. Something like the patella, so the knee bone, is called a sesamoid bone there. It's quite a small one. That's the patella that we have played with it a little bit in class. You know, you can feel your knee and move that little bone around a bit when your leg is extended and relaxed. We've got a long bone, which is that stereotypical thing that you think of when you talk about a bone. That's called a long bone, and a humerus is an example of that. The femur is another example. Flat bone, such as the bones of the skull. So, for example, the frontal bone within the skull is a flat bone. And then we've got short bones, such as the carpals. So within that wrist sort of area. Tarsals would be another example of short bones. It's important to also talk about bone anatomy. So this is a fair while back now, but we're going to refer to a long bone anatomy because it's the most commonly talked about, shall we say. So we've got different areas of the bone. Proximal epiphysis. Okay, proximal, closest to the, at this point we're talking about closest to the torso, or the hip joint. The metaphysis, we've got the diaphysis, we've got, again, the metaphysis, and then the distal epiphysis. Okay, so they're all just little regions of the bone. We've got, in what you would consider the heads of the bone, the distal and proximal epiphyses, you have articular cartilage, okay, which helps to provide a bit of cushioning at the joint and a little bit of lubrication. We've got spongy bone in this section, okay, which also contains red bone marrow. You'd be familiar with that sort of stuff if you've ever broken open a chicken bone. Okay, red bone marrow in there, which is important for a number of things, including blood production. You've got the epiphyseal line, which is to do with your growth plate. Okay, you've got the endosteum, compact bone surrounding it. Okay, that's important because that's quite hard to protect what's inside it. Within the medullary cavity, you've got yellow bone marrow. Okay, wouldn't worry too much about the periosteum at this point, but we're talking about the outer layer of the bone. So that's essentially what you need to know about bone anatomy in a nutshell. And then if you really cast your minds back, we spoke about the axial and the appendicular skeleton. So axial, along the axis, if you think that, it's anything connected to the central axis of the body, to the vertebral column, the spine area. So we're talking skull, vertebral column, and rib cage within the axial skeleton. And then in the appendicular skeleton, you're essentially talking the limbs and everything else. So your shoulder girdle, arms, hands, pelvic girdle, legs, and feet. So that's a general overview of bones. Make sure that you've taken notes and that your notes are correct. Test yourself, and good luck with the exam.